welcome to the Talon Outdoor Show. I'm Charlie.
I'm JD.
And I'm Fred.
And I'm Captain Paul Tire.
And I'm Grant.
And that was the show, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
there you go.
We'll see y'all next week.
There was that pause.
Now we got to talk about some fishing.
So, have you noticed that people on the road tend to be less respectful in Tallahassee these days than they have
I've
been
been
in past
noticing that too. They wave at you a lot with one finger.
Yes, I got it even worse. I'm coming to work this morning, and as usual, on the way to work, I'm behind, and I'm trying to check emails, and I'm on.
And I've ridden with you when you ain't behind.
And
Anyway, so go ahead. I'm
Well,
sure you share no fault in anything that you're about to share with us.
I'll admit that I'm probably not the best driver, but it's been a while since at least 2 months since I've crashed anything, and I'm trying to read my email, and there's only two cars on Ox Bottom Road. There's a car behind me and me, and so I probably crossed the line a little bit as I was, headed towards Thomasville Road. I was going to put it down when I got on Thomasville Road with traffic, and so I get up the stop sign and I look to my left, a bunch of cars coming, and the guy behind me just lays on his horn. Just lays on the horn, and at this point I'm stopped. And I look behind and look in my rearview mirror. It's a Gen Z beta male wearing a mask in his car by himself with his window rolls up, honking his horn at me.
Well, I was about to say that Fred did not have the option of getting out of the car and intimidating this person with his size. But now that you've described the other driver, the fact that
would have scared him to death.
You probably would have scared him to death.
5'4"
Some
and
angry little man.
5'4", 120-pound, bald-headed version of you.
And I just had my 2 cups of coffee, so I was fired up.
So what did you do?
I sat there and let about 5-6 cars go by for a couple of minutes and made him sit there and wait.
Nice.
There you go.
What, had a mask
That's
on?
passive aggressive.
That's what I was doing. I was being passive aggressive. I love being passive.
I didn't know what passive aggressive meant until some woman, girl, somebody somewhere along said, "You're so passive aggressive," and I'm like, "I'm not."
What's that mean?
Let me Google that. And I looked it up, and you know what? I kind of am.
They had your picture,
and I didn't know what it meant.
You're the definition of passive aggressive.
Well, I heard somebody call somebody a narcissist one time, and I looked that up, and I'm not that, but I looked it up, and the person that they were describing, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, and then I looked at it and I said, you know what? That's true. That's not me, but I'm better than all that. So. But I am passive aggressive sometimes, and I catch myself. And one of my daughters said something the other day, I had to back up and think, and I go, okay, how is this coming? You know what? She's right. What I said, because I was frustrated, what I said would have come across to anybody as that, and I'm not going to apologize. Because I'm never wrong, but
or narcissistic.
Yeah. So when you walk by a mirror, do you look at it every time you walk by?
Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble.
No, and I also
wrote a song about it.
Yeah. When you're perfect in every way. I don't look at the mirror every time I walk by. The only time I look in the mirror is if I'm trying to see if I look like an idiot before I leave the house. So I go, okay,
I check for boogers.
Really?
Yeah.
You ever find any?
Yeah.
I mean, I look in the mirror when I'm brushing not when I'm brushing my teeth. I'm looking down at the sink. When do I look in the mirror? When I brush my beard, because I don't.
Have you dyed your beard?
I was waiting for somebody to ask me about that.
You're not going to do that,
like
really.
A month and a half ago, I put my wife and I discussed.
You got to be kidding.
No,
I just caught a glimpse, and you got some red going on in there a little bit now. I guess it's wearing off. I don't see you that much. I don't look at you when I do see you.
I put something in there like 3 shows ago.
When you said something about being narcissistic or not being narcissistic, I looked over at you specifically at that point to just make sure something else wasn't going on. And now I noticed
it was getting about like your hair.
Like mine, yeah. Oh, I'm.
And my wife was talking about, well, you wouldn't look so old if your beard wasn't white.
And I wouldn't either if I wore a freaking toupee. But you're gonna.
Well, if you would just go ahead and give up with that comb over thing you got going on.
I got a mean comb over.
Paul, we're not going to involve you in this conversation. You just sit over there and be a good Christian, and we're just going to pick on each
I've
other
got
for a
a
while.
mean comb over. I mean, let me tell you.
That's a sad comb over, Fred. I
Fred,
mean,
you
you
just-
need to grow
We
out
ain't
the
trying
left
to comb
side.
over.
You need to grow out the left side or the right side, one or the other. But all that little wispy stuff on top, you need to do something about that.
I can't
If you
let that go.
if you give me 30 seconds in my clippers, and I'll fix all that for you.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, it might take a minute. You know,
I mean,
I gave up
You know-
on hair a long time ago. I just
see when you brush your hair in the mirror, you're at eye level and you're not seeing the top of your head.
when you're brushing your hair in the mirror, you're having a hard time seeing over the sink faucet.
Well, that too, but I got a stool.
Do you?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's got a step stool, and you open
Do
it
you
up.
have
it's
to
got
ask
stuff
your
in
wife
it.
to get stuff out of the top cabinet?
We have
in the
that for
kitchen?
my daughter in the kitchen, so our
Yeah.
toddler can help my wife in the kitchen. It's one of those little toddler step stools.
We've got one in the kitchen too. I mean, we got them all strategically around the house, and that way I can get stuff.
Well, your wife's taller than you, though, isn't she?
No. She's shorter.
She's
than
not
me.
really.
Mhm.
I thought she was just slightly taller than you. Maybe
She wears
just
high heels.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I've seen her. I've seen her not in high heels. Y'all about the same height though. You're close.
We ain't too far apart.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wear high heels just to
I have no.
Get taller.
just to be taller.
Get you
See how I got us off my beard real quick? We just pushed
Yeah,
that right.
let's get back
You
to
need
that.
to
whatever it was you did, you need to do it again or don't do it again.
Don't
Because
do
right
it
now
again.
you're getting some. You're looking like a. You're looking a little
I don't-
blondish, rusty going color.
No,
going
I mean-
it's
little
blonde.
red-
It's
little red
just
happening.
for me. It's blonde stuff.
I just don't.
It's blonde.
I'm
It's
not
not supposed
okay
to be
with
dark.
that. I'm not okay.
It's
with
just
you.
that when I had my beard in its full color, I had all these different colors in my beard. I got red, I got blonde, I got some dark brown, I got all kinds of crap. But it's just the way it is.
That's like dudes that shave their chest. I mean, you just. It's not okay.
He shaves his back, or his wife probably shaves his back. He looks like a grizz. When you catch that grizz, he looks like a grizz.
I didn't lose my hair. I just
Slid down
I
the
grew
back.
through it.
Oh no, I'm not gonna go.
And I can't say nothing because I look like one of them Sphinx cats.
You look
I am
like,
hairless.
You look like you're wearing one of those nylon bodysuits. You got nothing.
Nope.
I mean, I don't
Never
know. I
had
don't know
that.
about everywhere because
I
I ain't
do.
seen everywhere. But
I got it in them places. I got
Okay.
a little bit under my arm, but not enough to worry about. I mean, it's never have. I don't know.
No, I'm at the beach. I get mistaken.
if
for a
JD was
gorilla
trying to
or
avoid getting caught by the
spider
law,
monkey,
he just stripped down naked and grease up, and you would never catch him.
That's a fact.
No, let me tell you.
I fought a guy.
I do have. Wait a minute.
What? Whoa,
I
what
have.
now?
I have hairy legs. There's a song about that too.
Yeah, no,
Biden, I got hairy legs.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, at the beach, I've been mistaken for like a spider monkey.
Chia pet.
Yeah, because it's and my wife does not like
you
hair
throwing
on the
your
back.
feces at people or what?
Well, no. Well, I mean, I've thought
Yeah,
about
you got to
it.
quit climbing on people's shoulders.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. And
It'd be fun to walk around with Fred on your shoulder at the bar at the beach.
yeah,
Har.
get your little tin cup. And,
Catch him. Get you a little set of drums and running around with a hat on and play some
Get one of
grinder,
those- one of them organ grinder
Organ
things.
grinder,
Yeah.
I bet we can make some money off Fred doing that.
Put a little one of those
suit on
little
it.
top hat things
Yeah.
with the rubber band.
Yeah, get you a fez with a propeller on top. I'm throwing all kind of musical references into the show today.
So if y'all are watching any of this on the video on YouTube or any of the other stuff, then Fred is he's noticeably shorter than us. Now if you look at it, JD always on the video looks shorter than me, but JD and I are the same height.
Yeah,
We
I
just sit in the chair
I sit in the
different.
chair different. Yeah.
You hide behind the mic.
I do. I don't
You don't
much
want-
care.
you don't want
I don't
anybody
much
being-
care for being on being on camera or whatever.
Well, they got me a booster chair, so
Yeah, you're all jacked
I'm in
up.
good shape. I mean, it's
And that's about.
The booster chair just went flat. I got the ejection lever over here.
You just
See, this just doesn't all translate into audio as good as it does.
Fred, you remember Paul? You remember the pocket fisherman?
Yes.
Little thing you can
Yeah.
little thing on.
Oh, yeah.
Fred's
Hey, I've got two of them hanging up.
Fred's
back
my
room.
pocket lawyer. Carry him around a little packet, little backpack.
Objection!
Somebody mess with me, I just throw him out there. Sick him, boy.
We'll be right back. and we're back. So I went to post our FFA fundraiser we did for Marion FFA at the Skeet
Sporting Clays
tournament. Got an invite to go to the FFA banquet,
Cool.
and I went.
Nice.
And were you in FFA? Did y'all have a? You
Didn't
a
even
chapter
have
over
the
there?
opportunity. We didn't have in Chattahoochee, for believe it or not, we didn't have FFA or 4-H. I think we had 4-H maybe.
Y'all's
in
4-H
elementary.
was going home. You know,
Yeah.
you just went home and he was already there, so it was presumed that you knew all that stuff.
Yeah.
I did not. I had forgotten, and it has grown. The program they got now is expansive. They started calling the kids up. Okay, our ornamental horticulture team is da 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 da. Our parliamentary procedure team is da 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 da. Our forestry judging is da 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 da. And land judging is da da da. And I remember those, and maybe livestock judging, and maybe one more when I was in high school. They had like 18 different teams doing things from aquaculture to I mean, it was stuff I ain't never heard of. And I mean, and back when I was in the FFA, there were like, I mean, I know it was Lotus Summers and Penny Redmond, about the only girls in the whole thing. I remember because there was only two of them, maybe three, in my grade.
Yeah.
More than half the FFA is women now, or girls, you know, and the advisor is a woman. It has changed. Miss Beebe does a great job over there. But I went because I think I think we were the only sponsor of the event that was there, other than people who were parents
Right.
that got called up. And
A lot of the way high school stuff goes.
yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
Parents
you know,
are the
I'm
sponsors.
a sponsor because I'm a parent. Well, then we got involved. Yeah, I was the president back in the 80s.
You know who the first two women were in the FFA?
No.
Marianne and Wanda.
Marijuana.
No, Marianne and Wanda.
Marianne and Wanda.
Yeah, they were both members of the 4-H club and both active in the FFA. And then one of them killed Earl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that song.
Oh, yeah.
Another
Okay, I was trying to
Earl,
tell you
because
that.
Earl had to die.
Earl had to
Yeah.
die.
So anyway, they had a silent auction, and I walked over there. You remember the shooting table that they had?
Yeah, yeah.
The thing,
You get you one?
the very overbuilt shooting
Yes.
table with the two Millennium seats on it.
Cadillac of shooting
Well,
benches.
the parent that won it donated it back. Yeah.
So Charles
It now
ended up-
belongs to me.
It resides at the Strickland Ranch.
Yeah, and I got it, and I mean, bless their heart, I was the high bid, but it would have barely covered the cost of the seats. But they had raffled money off the first time, and then I didn't realize it was sitting there. I just said, "Yeah, I want one like that." And
Everybody
I
else in
figured
the
they would.
audience did not know that the Millennium boat seats are $100 a piece, and
I got it for like two.
All right, now what is this thing?
It's a two-step. It's a right and left-handed shooting table.
Yeah.
Made out of treated wood with a shelf under it, and kid that built it.
wheels on it so you can move it
It's got
around.
wheels and handles. You pick up one end, you can roll it around, and it's got two Millennium boat seats. And I don't shoot left-handed, but you know it's got two seats on it. Personally, I'm thinking.
Do you
My
sit
wife
on
is
it
like,
and
"What are you gonna do with it?" I said, "I'm gonna put it under the carport and deer hunt out of it this year. I'll sit there and throw some corn in the backyard."
Drink my coffee, look out the back
With
window,
that
and-
table, I can shoot out to 500-600 yards.
Oh,
easy.
easily.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that thing's
So
rock.
does
I mean,
it have
it
like
is
a
rock
rest or
solid.
something on it where you
It's
can?
it's a shooting table, Fred. It's a table with a arm
built
down
at
the
the
middle,
right
and
height.
you put your
and
rifle
you have,
on
yeah,
it.
you have a piece of it that extends, so you're kind of sitting in one corner of the table.
Yeah.
In
you
a
do.
seat, so you've got a place to rest the rifle in the proper position, and you've
Okay.
got this
If you
really
go to-
stable platform.
If you go down to the 100-yard range, you've
Yeah.
got 10 stations like that. It's just one of those.
Okay.
So, and
But I always
anyway,
bring a little
and I got
thing and put on it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but if the table's not designed right, you can't use that thing you put on it.
so when I sight rifles in at the house, I'm using 2 ice chests, a bag of corn, a 5-gallon bucket to sit on. Okay,
Well, now you got a table.
not the best way. Now I got the table, and my wife's like, well, "Where you gonna put it?" And I said, "I didn't really think about all that. It'll be out there. I'll put it right next to where you park." She says, "No, you're not." I said, "All right, we'll see."
You got to build another.
But I can
boat.
tell you what's going to happen. The goats are going to have a heyday with it because they get on top of everything like that. And the other thing I got was they had a load of millings from Anderson, Columbia.
Oh, nice.
You can't order a load of millings, and you can't get one for less than
A lot.
like $800-900 now. $600 to $800-900 for
And
a
how many
big load of millings.
how many loads once upon a time did they give us when they were
Oh,
milling
man.
up the airstrip at or Tallahassee, the runways?
Yeah.
They had they couldn't get rid of it, and they gave us
Well,
a
I
pile
think
of
I
it.
got that for like $300, and I know I would have paid twice that for it. I called this first thing I did on the way over this morning is I called and says, "Hey, I got this in the sign office. Who do I need to talk to?" And she said, "Me." I said, "Well, here's my address.
What you
Hang
gonna
on.
do with them?
I'm gonna put it in my driveway. It's where it belongs." So what do you do with bit millings? You put it in your driveway. I've got the lime rock 57 rock.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is every time it gets dry, you get all that white dust on everything.
Yeah.
And the more you drive over lime rock, the
Yeah.
more it crushes
How
into
more
lime
powdery
powder.
it gets.
And although it comes out of a hole probably 2 miles as a crow's fly right across the Chipola River from the pit where it
Yeah.
comes from, it still costs me $600 to $800 to get somebody to go over there and get me a load of it and bring it literally around the corner. And they won't let me take my loader over there and pick it up because you have to have a dump truck. I don't own a dump truck.
Huh.
So
We just
there's a lot
scraped the
over there.
road when I was growing up. We didn't have nothing put on it. Just,
Well, the problem
Depends on
with-
what kind of dirt you got, though.
yeah, it's
And
clay. So
Clay is, clay. Only downside to clay is when it gets wet, then it's a
yeah,
slip and
then
slide.
it's going. Yeah, not only that, then it gets in your tires and throws off your balance.
Yeah.
When you try to drive, you
Well, you kind of
feel
got
like
to get in the ruts to do that.
Well, I don't have a problem doing that.
I'll tell you this, Fred. So I grew up driving on Georgia red clay roads.
Mhm.
It is a non-licensed, under the age to get a licensed driver. I could drive from our house to town
Sure.
via said red dirt roads. Now, it was a way out of the way. It wasn't like getting on Highway 90 and driving 7 miles into town. It was more like a 10 or 12-mile trip, and I had to go down Highway 90 for about mile.
Yeah.
And then I could hit the back roads, and I could drive to the baseball field, go to baseball practice, drive myself at 14, 15. So, but I learned to drive on those red clay roads, some of which had very large hills on them and that kind of stuff. I learned to drive on that in all weather situations. And when I got to the police academy, and they put me on the skid pan at the police academy. So at the police academy, when they're teaching you EVOC, evasive driving, they're teaching you emergency driving, emergency vehicle operation. He got out there, and I had this old instructor in the car with me, and the instructor's sitting over there in the passenger seat, and he's got a handbrake where he can reach it, and his car specially made for it, and or set up for it. And they put you out there on this really slick piece of asphalt that was polished. I mean, it's shiny polished, and they turn the sprinkler on around it, and they get out there with dish soap and put dish soap on top of the wet, shiny, slick, and it's slicker than owl stuff on linoleum, And he gets out there and he goes, "All right, you get up to this speed and hit the skid pan, and I'm gonna put you into a spin. I'm gonna put you into a skid, and you need to correct and not run off in the woods and whatever else, because there's a lot of people run off in the woods or run off into the grass, and you didn't pass." And he's out there, and I'm getting on that thing. You put me in a souped-up car, and I hit that skid pan, and he's starting to try to make me skid. And every time he'd start the skid, I'd just steer out of it, and it never would get loose, And he's like, "Quit doing that." I was like, "Well, you told me not to let it skid." And he'd try again, try it again, and he'd do it again, and I'd just immediately, the minute I felt any kind of traction break, I'm steering into the thing, and he never could put me in a skid. And he looks at me and he goes, "Boy, where'd you grow up?" I said, he was from Sneeds. He said, "Boy, where'd you grow up?" I said, "I'm from Chattahoochee." He goes, "You've been driving them red clay roads all your life, haven't you?" I said, "Yes, sir, I lived down one of them." He goes, "All right, then, you passed."
Good. You want to be an instructor? And you were not long after
long after that.
I've had lots of crashes, but none of them have been a result of skidding off the road. I can handle that one.
Well, if you don't know how to drive on a red clay road, you will end up in the ditch.
Yeah.
In certain conditions.
We had the redneck version of that at Chipola College back when I was in the academy in 89, 90, whatever it was. And we went out to the airport, and they just had some packed grass, and they went out there and they sprayed it with the fire hose, and we got out there and spun around in circles on the wet grass. Now they have I think they have a skid pan or something up at the firing range, but back then I don't know what they do. They may still go do the same thing, but I remember I was in the car, and one old boy he passed, but I don't know how. But we had all the windows rolled down, and they put two of us in the back seat so we could watch the ones in the front. And obviously the passenger is the instructor and the guy and we got up on two wheels And I'm looking at the ground out the passenger side, and grass is flying in.
He had done bit the rims into that dirt out there and got.
That
happens.
Boy, I remember that to this day. I remember thinking, this is. And what bothered me was the old boy sitting next to me. He was going to fall on me because we weren't wearing a seatbelt in the back seat. I don't know anybody wearing a seatbelt back then. That's back when you was a kid, you used to lay up in the back deck of the car.
You know what a J-turn is? You know what a J-turn is. You know what a J-turn is? So you get the car going in reverse. You put it in reverse, get it wound up, headed backwards, and you basically touch the brakes and hit the steering wheel at the same time, and you can go from going backwards to going forwards. And in the middle of all that, you're kind of changing gears, and so it's a quick way to turn around and go the other way. It's Rockford Files. Remember old Rockford Files, the gold-colored Firebird or whatever Trans Am he drove? He did J-turns all the time on the show. It's just, cool maneuver. And they showed us, they were going to show us the J-turn and not teach it to us. And I looked at the old guy that was instructing me. I said, I've been doing that a long time out there in the cow pasture in a '68 Chevrolet Stepside. Watch this, and he goes, "Don't you know?" I was going to show him I could do that, and I got in all kind of trouble.
Remember the Toyota little pickup trucks with the pull brake, the emergency brake puller.
Right in the middle.
You ride off the side of the road with that thing and get 2 tires in the grass, and then get 4 tires in, get the front, right, left tire back on the pavement, snatch that brake, pop it, and pop the clutch, and turn around. You'd spin around and go the other direction. You just have to throw it in first gear and just.
I had a buddy that was good at that.
It'd scare the mess out of your girlfriend.
I had a buddy that was real good at doing that with an S10 pickup truck, and then he flipped it, and it just didn't work out well for him after that.
Apparently, I was fortunate enough. Anyway, well, you couldn't do it once you jacked at the rear end and put the mud tires on it.
That's true.
All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. So on the break, we were discussing weekend redneck activities. And Fred, you were going on about back in the day where the little town you were in, all they did was get a case of Budweiser, ride around and cut donuts and go mudding and stuff.
Go mudding, and then on Saturday night, this is in Butler, Alabama.
And JD and I are going, and that sounds like a good weekend to me.
And then and of course, this is the first time I've ever been to Butler, Alabama. I was away in military school. I had a roommate from there, and
were you a Ute back then?
I was a Ute.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Utes in that school, and most of them been sent away from regular school
for one reason or another. Kicked out.
Just voluntarily
they were exceptional.
Sent away.
Yeah. They were exceptional children.
That was the answer to special education back then. Is your parents shipped you off to military school. And such happened to me my senior year, and I would go home with my roommate, who was just as much a delinquent as I was, but I didn't grow up in that spot. I grew up in Tallahassee,
big city compared to Butler, Alabama,
which is metropolis compared to that place. I mean, they had one restaurant, I think it's called Di Pasquale's Pizza or something in there. And on Saturday nights, the big attraction for the Utes in Butler, Alabama, was they had a tire burning.
Yeah, they burn good.
They would somebody go to a junkyard and get a bunch of tires.
Pour some gas on it.
Pour some gas on it and light them up. And everybody stand around and drink Budweiser watching a tire burn.
Well, we did it with pallets. If you saw a truckload of pallets on a Friday or Saturday night,
be a party
you followed it to the party. And I mean, that's just. And now we would get on CB radios and we would discuss that. Say, hey, so and so's got a truck full of pallets. Where's he going? I don't know. He ain't answering the radio. Follow him, see which way. He said he's going out to Dead Cow. All right, I thought he was going to Yancey Land, and no, we were at Magnolia the other night. It was which boat landing or which crossroads out in the middle of nowhere, or we go into the clay pit.
They had
now you can take this conversation and put it anywhere in the South.
We had a clay pit
in rural areas, and somebody got a clay pit.
90 block. Yeah, you were going to the 90 block. That was whatever.
Clay pit, sand pit.
Yeah. Well, of course, this is a military school, so somebody brought some rappelling gear to the clay pit, and everybody rappelling down into the clay pit.
You're weird. It's okay.
Well, that was a show enough pit. So see, our pit had walls on it, but you could get a 4-wheeler up it if you were brave enough.
Yeah. This thing went straight down. It's probably 100 feet.
We had a place. There was a place between Bristol and Chattahoochee. We just call it the Sand Hills, and it was just a big, huge sand dune from ocean sand dune from 10,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, whatever. And if you had a sure enough 4-wheel drive truck, you could go down one side through the creek at the bottom and up the other side. But you better have a sure enough. You better have a sure enough pickup truck, because the downside of that was if you didn't make it up the other side, you better be real careful backing down, because that's a good way to turn. I've seen vehicles roll down that sand pit. So
I rolled into the clay pit one time out in Marion. I think it was Baxter's clay pit, but it was the clay pit, and we had dug a trench and put about 6 or 8 kegs of beer in that thing. We lined it with plastic and filled it up with ice and rock salt, and
that's a dang good
we actually
party.
froze a couple of the kegs. I think that keg party went on all weekend. But I had Daddy had bought this long wheelbase 1979 Ford F-150, and that was the one I put the lift kit on with the wood blocks and the steel, the toolbar off the tractor implement, and I got brand new dual exhaust put on that thing. And went up a little dirt hill and got centered out on it, and everybody pushed me off. But when I went back down backwards, the 2 dual exhausts coming out the back caught in the dirt and bent them right straight back up underneath the truck, ripped the hangers off, and all I had, and I went from blah 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 to. And I got out with a hacksaw and I cut my brand new exhaust off. And so for the next 6 or 8 months, I'd go around town.
I watched a guy. Remember the Suzuki Samurais?
Oh yeah.
I watched a dude one time at the sand hill down there. I don't know who he was, but everybody. I mean, dude, people from 3 counties would come to this middle of nowhere out there on St. Joe land, middle of nowhere, just to try it. I watched a guy roll a brand new Suzuki Samurai from the top of that hill to the creek.
It probably looked better after he rolled it.
No, it was pretty flat. I don't know how he didn't die.
We'll be back. And we're back.
We have anything substantial to talk about? Just out of curiosity.
Any what?
Anything substantial to talk about?
Did you see your TikTok video about Crayola scent and
No, I did. No, I did. I did not.
49.5 thousand views.
Yeah, I saw that.
Talking about the
I
don't
have TikTok.
trademarked scents. Yeah,
Patchouli.
That one of them.
It was I think there was. You mentioned Crayola, and I was looking at the demographics. I think most of them were Marines, but
that's a food group for Marines.
Crayola.
So here we are, non-military guys picking on people I don't want to pick on.
I'm friends with enough Marines. I can say they will all eat crayons and lick windows. Every one of them I know are prone to eating crayons and licking windows.
My daddy was a corpsman in Vietnam, and he saved enough Marines' lives to where I get a little leeway. I think
I love all of them. Don't get me wrong, I do. I dearly love all of them, but they were all, and they say they prefer red.
I like watching military guys pick on each other. Now, I got a call from Frank up in Dothan yesterday, and he goes, "Hey, our range program Glocks came in, and our stocking dealer Glocks came in, and I don't know which order is which." And I said, "Well, tell me what's on which order." And he told me, and I said, "Okay, is there any invoice number or anything with it?" And he goes, "Yeah, there's a GSD blah blah blah, and
Glock,
there's a
stocking
RPA."
And
I said, okay, so the RP is range program and GSD is Glock stocking dealer. And he goes, "Oh, well, that makes sense." I said, "Now hold on a minute. You're a retired Army helicopter
Apache
pilot."
helicopter
I said,
pilot.
"Now you military guys, you're not used to acronyms. I understand you guys aren't familiar with the use of acronyms at all, like us civilians are. And so maybe we need to give you a lesson on what things stand."
Well, it could be that if we go back and we were able to find the Apache helicopter that he actually flew, we might find window lick prints on the inside of his.
Cockpit.
I guarantee he knows what P-38 is.
Well, I will tell you that
I know a lot of different P-38s. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charlie.
I don't see. I can't listen to 2 or 3 military people having a conversation because they fall into what we used to when cops still used 10 codes and signals.
Oh yeah, speak a whole different language.
When we were talking about
that's what me and my wife use when we don't want the kids to know what we're talking about. Unfortunately, now my kids have heard it enough they know exactly what that means.
And they're not even using that much anymore. They've gone to plain speak, which we still use words that don't make sense to the normal people, just like military people do. I mean, you get in a room and they're cultures.
Yeah. Send send your wife a text. I'm 51 to the 42, and the kid picks it up. And,
I'm going home.
Daddy's on the way home.
Yeah, going home.
It took me about 3 years because every time I was around cops, this signal 20 kept coming up, and I'm like, what
That's because they were talking about you.
They were speaking
figured
of
it
you
out.
in your presence.
They
yes.
were. Yes, it's like
and the problem is that military people don't realize that normal folks don't understand what they're saying sometimes, and law enforcement sometimes doesn't realize that normal folks. And I'd hear law enforcement officers I was out on calls with, and they'd be talking to Joe Blow citizens, somebody that was a complainant or a victim, and they'd start throwing codes and stuff at them. You're like, he doesn't know what you're saying, man. He doesn't. You know, hey, just tell them I'm 51.
I'll tell you one bad guys
52
did.
is 5. You know, it's
the bad guys did in fact understand several of the magic words, like
1049,
1049 or 99.
99, yeah, depending on which you sheriff's officer or police department.
1015. They all knew what 1015 or 1012. Are you? And then you get smart and are you 1012? There he went.
And they're gone.
The radio dispatcher
But
trying to be cool and not use those magic words that a lot of the bad guys understood. The frequent flyers, frequent flyers would understand 1049, 99, whatever. They would understand that. And I was bilingual because I worked at a city agent or state agency and the sheriff's office, and codes were different, but I spoke both of them.
And I knew the city because I worked at FSU with you, and we ran around with a little scanner up there on the A-pillar all the time, listening to everything the city was doing.
Back when we couldn't talk to each other, but we could talk to each other because the city officers were scanning us, and we were scanning them, and we would talk to them. We would just say things to nobody on the radio, and that we knew that a TPD officer or buddy that was working at TPD was also listening, and then all of a sudden he'd show up, and they're like, how'd you get him there so fast? Well, I told him one way,
Oh, yeah. It was I remember being on FSU campus catching armed robbers coming out of Frenchtown, walking through campus, and we're out there with them, and just tell the city I'm 1012 out here with this suspect and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, a TPD car whips around there, and there they are.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to many deputies back then because anytime I saw them, they were too busy, and if you could get them to roll the window down, they just had. I didn't realize there was only like 2 in the whole city.
Yeah, there's like 8 of them, and they were all busy.
The whole county, and there was 2 in the city, and if typically they were doing something, and I just thought they were being rude, and then I became one, and realized, only reason I talked to FSU PD because they're all my friends.
Yeah.
And to this day, still,
well,
it's run by our friend.
The world has come a long way in that now all the local agencies all can talk to each other, and it's encrypted, and they don't have to memorize all those codes and keep up with all that stuff.
Do they use
speak
codes anymore?
Not
it's
much.
Pretty much plain language
plain
now, and because it's encrypted, that's why you can't. You could buy a scanner. It ain't going to help you because they're changing frequencies. It's constantly changing frequencies and sub-frequencies, and it's encrypted.
It's tough to get cops to quit using those now.
Especially as old guys.
They went to plain language in Jackson County after my wife got over there, and it's tough. And
it made a lot of people mad. It made a bunch of folks mad because that was high entertainment for a lot of folks that sit around with with fancy scanners and listen to what was going on in the world. And I remember going to calls when we first went to a trunk tracking fancy radio system at the sheriff's office, and they go to the calls with old folks or something, and they're sitting around the house, nothing better to do but listen to the scanner.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd get a call, can you go down and speak to Miss So-and-so? I've been trying to listen to y'all all night, and I can't get nothing to do. What's going on with your radios? And my scanner doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Sorry. You
used
can't.
to, they'd meet you at the door.
Yes.
I heard you on scanner you were pulling in the yard, so I came on down here. To open the gate for you because
that ain't no joke. But bad guys were using them too. Sophisticated bad guys were using that same technology that you had back then. So, stuff. Things change.
Things do in fact change. But then again, most people used to support law enforcement back then, and that's kind of gone.
I don't know. I think we're seeing I think you're starting to see a swing back the other direction because they kind of realize they might need those guys in their life every now and then.
I think the whole defund thing didn't really work out that well.
No, you saw where
hurt the people that needed it the most.
Yeah, because the people that were screaming defund law enforcement were the people that called the most.
Yeah.
The people that didn't ever call, they were like, we support law enforcement, but, I can't tell you the last time I had them at my house.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that were calling all the time, we don't want you here, we don't want you here. And that's the same thing. They call you, and then you show up, and you don't tell them what they want to hear, and now they're mad at you. And now you got all these people running around videotaping everything, which now there's some bad cops out there. I mean, there's some people that
It happens.
And I would say that there are more law enforcement officers that aren't educated in all of the nuances of the law and the case law and things, and maybe have been trained in a direction where they may be a little overbearing as opposed to just bad cops.
Charlie, unfortunately, a lot of that stems from the defund the police, no support for law enforcement, because so many people left the business or left the career of law enforcement early, and just because of the negative connotation of being a cop, and you've got fewer and fewer qualified applicants or people that can make more money doing something else, or they don't want to put up with the politics of it or whatever else. So your hiring pool has gotten much smaller, and agencies are willing to sometimes take marginal people because they raise their hand and they're willing to do it. And I'm not necessarily that's a bad thing, but I think it's all part of the same thing.
If somebody offered to pay you today, would you go back and work the road?
No.
I mean,
And what I would make today if I left here and I raised my hand up and I could pass all that stuff, and with my experience, whatever else, I'd be making six figures in today's law enforcement. With my experience level at most agencies around here, I would start out making close to six figures.
I got a phone call earlier asking about some of the off-duty rates, and it's through the roof.
Yeah, there's they don't make that much money. They don't make enough money. They don't print enough money to get me to go back.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't do it.
I mean, and it's getting harder and harder.
It's not because I'm scared either. It's just I wouldn't put up with it.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. And we're back. I was talking to our friendly Amchar distributor rep on the phone yesterday, and all he wanted to do was go fishing or go turkey hunting. But there was like tornadoes. So
they've been having. I talked to him pretty much every day, and he said they have had the worst weather up there in Pennsylvania. It's where he lives.
He said, so I'm not going fishing because I'm not going to get out on the water with the lightning rod in my hand, but I am going turkey hunting.
Lightning rod.
He was lamenting about not being able to get on the water to me. So, how about you, Paul? You've been on the water.
Yes, I was out there this morning.
Yeah,
and I hear the what's her name?
That's Lily over there trying to get out there and go harass customers.
I tell you, boy, the bite was slow. The bass bite was slow this morning.
Well, it was foggy.
It was very foggy this morning. It seems like it was just slow. But, man, I tell you, actually finally starting to see some brim starting to come up on the bed.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen any until this last couple of days, but their brim are starting to bed. So I like to see that because now them bass will start pushing back in. But they've had the water up and down. It's made the bite a little bit slow, but
seeing how it is May, it won't be long before some mayflies will hatch.
Yeah, that's right. Haven't seen any mayflies yet. I think that's any day now. It's going to be happening.
I'll ask you a question. I went. Annie and I went bass fishing Wednesday evening after supper, right around the corner of the house, and we were throwing frogs on lily pads because I was seeing some movement out there. I had 2 strikes at my frog. And it was probably 10 seconds after I had moved the frog. I had pulled a frog through the pads, and almost got the bait back to the boat. And then all of a sudden, you see something blow up on where it had been, where the bait had been. They were so far behind it, and it was late in the afternoon, sunsetting, low light or whatever. And do you think like topwater frog bait fishing works better when you've got a bright light source when it's brighter outside?
At times for sure, definitely.
I mean, they're laying there underneath those pads in the shadows, and they're looking up through through a crack in the where the water is in between the pads, and they're laying there looking at that silhouette come
That's right.
moving by. So I would think you would have to have a significant enough light source above the bait.
That's right.
For that bait to
when
show up.
in the early morning or late the evening. I like to kind of fish the outside edge, so they can key on a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, there ain't outside edges in Lake Ammonia. It's all lily pads.
It's all lily pads.
Yeah, for the most part, except for the boat runs. But we were seeing a lot of fish moving. Man, we threw everything I took with us that afternoon, and I couldn't didn't get a true bite on
When
anything.
It hit it and sucked it in.
Yeah.
And you'll have that right now. I think as we go into the summer, that bite's going to get. But there's times you can throw in as the bait's hitting.
Oh yeah, they'll come out of the water and get it.
Already out and get it. That's coming. That's coming.
Yeah. I told her, I said, I just want you to get one. She's never caught a bass on a frog on a top water bait, and I said, if I could just do anything and get like a 5 or 6 pound bass and watch that thing come out of the water 3 feet away from that frog and land on top of it and just explode, I said, you would be so hooked on bass fishing that you just couldn't,
That's right, and that's the funnest bite when they're doing that, and oh man, I remember throwing a head and zero spook. Remember those old baits?
Oh, yeah.
Man, you'd be working that thing along, and they'll just jump completely out of the water and like paws up in there, and then come back down and eat it. It's so awesome.
Look like Michael Jordan coming in for the dunk.
Right. Just paws in there, and then get it. That's good.
Yeah, she grew up saltwater fishing, so she's the top water fishing. It's not something she did a lot of. She grew up fishing a lot, but it was all on stuff.
I've had people tell me that top water bite when they're doing that, it's kind of like. People they try to crack one time and they're done. It kind of messes you up. You're hooked after that.
So
a lot better than live scope. Watch it throwing out there and watching the fish and making it. Yeah. But that's what this last tournament up there on Seminole was one of the top. I think the 2 out of the top 10 were all caught.
Yeah, they had was it Major League Fishing tournament up there
Toyota
last
Series
week.
Tournament.
I watched some of the TV coverage on it.
Yep. But like I said, the brim are starting to bed to show those mayflies. That's going to be happening any day. I had a customer from call, actually a longtime listener of the show from Destin, when it was asking questions about the conversation we was having about rods and reels, and got to talk with him. What a really, really nice guy. Listened to the show for a long time, and was answers questions. He was going to get a couple more rod and reels.
Fred, I found something the other day. Jim over here next door was working on this guy's.
Doggone it! I forgot to bring my rods. I was gone.
Well, Jim was repairing a reel for a gentleman who found the reel in the bottom of the lake somewhere. I don't know what body of water he was on. It was a Shimano, and I'm not going to remember the model number, but it's about a $500 retail.
It's not Metanium, is it?
Yes. Yeah, maybe. It actually has a.
Is it mine?
It actually has a magnetic brake system that has a computer chip, and the spool spinning creates electricity to run this thing to basically make an open face bait cast and reel that you essentially cannot backlash. And Jim said you could actually tie on a little lightweight bait and throw it with the wind and take your thumb or throw it in and then turn around and throw the same bait into the wind and never have to make adjustments to your reel or whatever. But it is this basically computerized bass fishing reel, and I was sitting there watching
makes that wing
sound.
Sure
that and salt water probably go together great.
No.
I don't. To be honest with you, I don't think it sitting at the bottom of the lake did it no good either, because the braking module on that reel is replacement cost is like $200 just for the module of the reel. The reel's like $500. It's like a $500 bait caster. I was thinking to myself, my granddaddy that would save enough change to buy a $25 Ambassador 5000C,
and it still be working today.
And I still have those same reels that still work. Would roll up. He has got to be turning over. He's got to be up there in heaven somewhere, pounding his head against. What's wrong with these people?
Yeah.
Well, that just goes to show that if you spend enough money, even I can fish.
We got to get you one
Fred,
of them
tell
reels.
About the one you just got yourself.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
Tell me, Fred.
No, I know exactly.
You done bought a Van Stahl?
No, I didn't buy a Van Stahl, but I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Probably ordered it off of Sky Magazine on a flight somewhere, Get a fishing rod.
Well, you didn't get it off of TMU.
So speaking of
no.
Speaking of
Won't be getting
saltwater
much there anymore.
fishing, have you seen what the governor has done for us?
gave us a whole bunch more snapper
Yeah,
fishing
well,
days.
did he?
100 and something, 129, 126 fishing days this year,
126.
snapper.
Yeah,
season.
and has said that if weather screws us up, he's going
Add to it.
to add to it.
I wonder if he fishes.
He must fish.
I think he does because.
Or he's just real mad at the federal biologists that
Very
say
well
that
could
we're
yeah, there's a snapper shortage.
shortage
Right.
of snappers when
Yeah.
you go out there to try to grouper fish on the 2 days a year.
Yeah.
They give you the grouper fish and you can't get a bait to the bottom because the snapper won't let it get there.
Look, if I can catch a snapper, there is no snapper shortage. I can tell you that. Now, speaking of that, Southern Seafood's main commercial boat went out last week,
And?
Sunday. Left at 4 in the morning, got back to the dock by noon. 1,600 pounds
Wow.
of snapper.
Man.
So if you are looking for a snapper this weekend, they got some at Southern Seafood.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pile of
It's,
fish. When's he going? When am I going to get invited to go on one of these hoist them in trips?
As a
Fred?
matter of fact, I talked to him about that last week and said, I need to take JD on one of these. Charlie don't want to go. He
I
just
do
said,
not want to go.
but I need to take JD. He said, yeah, we'll get him out of there. I think he had 6 guys on the boat, and he said they chummed him up to the 10 feeters. They caught them all on spinning reels, 150 feet of water.
Oh, that would be cool.
And it got to be like a
You can't see
assembly
land
line.
from that far out, can you?
No, you ain't
I
going
only
to see
go-
land from that far.
Nope.
out.
Have you ever, Paul? Have you ever been offshore fishing?
Yeah, 3 times, and I got sick each time, and I ain't never going back.
There you go, bro.
Never going
So
back.
they-
Never
so-
going
so-
back.
so
you and Charlie can hold hands on the
I-
dock while me and
we
Fred
can-
go
we can
and
fish,
harvest some
catch
fish.
fish.
Paul,
I ain't
Paul
going out
JD
there.
can go. He can come back and tell the story. You and I will pretend to care.
That's right. I ain't going out there.
There is nothing more awesome than watching. You know what a
What,
chum
mixed
churn? You ever seen a chum churn?
I would be churning. I mean, chumming.
No. Have you ever, Fred? Have you ever seen a chum churn? One
You
of
know the
those.
ones where you fill it up, just throw it over the side of the boat and let it go.
No. This is a giant piece of PVC pipe with a bunch of holes and slots
Yeah.
and stuff cut in it, and it's got a big aluminum rod that goes down through the middle of it with razor blades on it.
Oh, okay.
And you stick this thing over and it fills up with water, which weighs it down, and you got a big hook in, and it's got razor blades. It's like one of those vegetable choppers that your mama's got that you screw the lid on and hit the top on. Same thing, except you fill it full of cigar minnows or alewives, whatever you have, and you hang it over the side of the boat, and you sit there and chunk, 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 and it makes the craziest racket you've ever heard, but it sounds like something chewing up fish.
Yeah.
And you get over some of these artificial reefs or some of these places offshore, Panama City or whatever, where you've got some hopper cars in the water or whatever, and you stick that thing over the side and you go to working that thing up and down like a butter churn, and it starts chopping that stuff off, and and you're looking into a blue abyss where you can't see any bottom. And then all of a sudden the bottom starts moving and getting darker. And then as they come up to where the light starts turning those red snapper red, and you just, that big cloud, that dark cloud turns into a bright red cloud, and then you're sitting there just
Kind of
fishing
like that
with
scene in Mel Gibson's
but-
Waterworld
yeah,
where the sea
huh?
creature
But
comes
if
up.
you'll take me to Waffle House before we go out on the boat, I can do just as good.
Me too.
If I could get you to eat alewives, then we'd be in business.
We'll be back next week. We'll see y'all next time.